week or so, there's been a discussion surrounding fixing art, and specifically in regards to J. Scott Campbell's Mary Jane image. It was quote unquote fixed by another user on the internet. So did we asked everyone their opinion on it? Yes. Are we gonna unpack that? Okay, great.
Oh yeah. We're gonna unpack it.
All right, fantastic. So we asked you guys your opinion on what you think about art fixes. If people take issue with art, should they be altering it on social media? So let's see what you guys had to say. Rob O'Brien says, considering the tradition in comic fandom to discuss how I do it better, I think the faux outrage over this is ridiculous. As for art fixes in general, they're a form of critique like any other, no big deal. Roger says, excuse me, there are no mistakes in art. When it is presented, it will of course be subjected to public scrutiny, and if the public rejects it, then it is their right. The only person who can correct art is the artist themselves. Scott says, fixing someone else's art is extremely disrespectful to the original artist. If you don't like the art, nobody's forcing you to view or listen to it. Daniel says, to fix something implies it's broken. It's very arrogant to think your version is better than someone else's just because the original doesn't fit your criteria. AKA Mr. Bolo says, inclusive, body-positive art is absolutely crucial to making comics welcoming for everyone. That being said, the answer to not feeling like an artist took these things to heart in their work isn't to, quote-unquote, fix it by fixing theirs, but to instead create art that showcases an aesthetic you believe in. Anthony says, I think it crosses the line. Criticisms of art are valid and should be encouraged. Defacing someone else's creation should not be.
All right, so who's going to go first, Ashton? Come on. This is your segment.
All right, so there's a lot of layers here that you have to unpack. And I think the first thing is kind of this phrase of like art fixing. And I do think that is problematic in and of itself. Yes, maybe you shouldn't be. I don't know that fixing art is the issue here. Actually, I think that it's a detour around the actual issue. And some of our viewers kind of, said this as well. Like, yeah, are you fixing art? Like, yeah, you are. Is it disrespectful? I don't know that I think that. I think people, if you look at all the ways the Mona Lisa has been disrespected over time, that doesn't seem to bother people. But in this particular instance, it is problematic. I think that's a little bit of a selective application of that. I will say here, though, like anytime you create art and you put it out there for someone else to consume, you've immediately entered it into the court of public opinion, and not everyone's going to be on board. And that's really just too bad. Like, there are going to be people that don't like it, that take issue with it, and that are going to get very loud about it. And they are well within their right to do so. And if that rubs you the wrong way, unfortunately, sorry. We've talked about the way women are portrayed in comics in this show before. And I think in the past, I kind of danced around it. I'm not going to be that generous this time. I personally think this is a little bit ridiculous. I think it perpetuates unrealistic beauty standards. And I can't believe that in 2021, this is really the only way to portray someone that is an actress and a model. And I know this is something, Troy, you said when we talked about it the first time, that MJ is an actress and a model. She is. Mm-hmm. She can look differently and still be an actress and a model. She doesn't have to be this ridiculous waistline that's not realistic for where your ribs and your lungs and your organs would be. And it is alienating to a female audience. Like, I find that distasteful. And, beyond that, this is an issue, someone took issue with it, they fixed it, right? So then here comes J. Scott Campbell voicing his complaint and fixing the fixed art. So if you look at the fixed art, the third iteration of this, truthfully, you come out with an altogether far more tasteful image than you started with. So I'm not understanding, like, why did it take all of this to get here? Like, why wasn't this the starting place? Like, why do we need to have the tiny waist with her arms looking like it's pushing her boobs up? Like, I don't understand what that was supposed to be. I also lost my next train of thought, so that's awkward. But
I mean, I can jump in here and save you, or like, do you want to continue on? You want to try to get that thought back?
Yeah, It's going.
Okay, so You Know Nothing, Jon Snow pointed out something I was going to bring up, which is this wasn't made in 2021. It was made from 2009. Actually, it was earlier than that. It's actually from J. Scott Campbell. Well, it's actually from an early 2000s run of Amazing Spider-Man. J. Scott Campbell's never the interior artist. He was actually the cover artist for several of those books. Man, oh man. Okay, so I have a lot of feelings on this, and like I'm going to try really hard not to be verbose here, right? Like,
I did not try hard to not do that.
No, I think that's fine. I think that I think we're going to have. I think for the first time in the history of the show, you and I are going to be at odds about this, and which I want to point out, which is okay. Like, I think that's the other part of this is like, I think Ashton has very valid opinions in terms of beauty standards, right? But here's the thing. I feel like that's a lot to weigh on an image. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think that there is, and I also think that, like, especially now, there's like so many different types of comics, like that there's something for everybody. You know what I mean? So if someone like, and I don't want to finger point at them, but if Xenoscope wants to do the cheesecake thing, then it's like, okay, fine. I mean, they have an audience for it, and that's, people clearly buy it, so that's how it works. Does it work for me? It does not work for me. I'll be very honest with you. That said, I've always been a fan of J. Scott Campbell, and I've been a fan of J. Scott Campbell since Gen 13, and I'll be very honest with you, like, some of the appeal of Gen 13 was the hot girls, like, so I mean, I was, of course, 17 at the time, so I was a prime demographic for it. But that was part of the appeal, and that's kind of what he does. And we talked on the show before. We talked on the show before about his Black Widow cover. I think it was early last year. Something similar cropped up with him about his Black Widow cover, and people were taking issue with that. Prior to that, people took issue with a Riri Williams cover that he did, and then he completely redrew it. Like, I feel, and like prior to that, he's been a frequent target for these types of criticisms, right? And I got to be real with you, Ashton. At this point, it feels like harassment. And I know that that's a strong word to throw around, right? But I also feel like people throw that word around a lot anyway, so I'm going to use it too here. Look, it's he has a style, he has an audience. That audience is locked in. And like I said, there's a wide range of material. Like, go to PREVIEWSworld.com/new releases. Like, there's a wide range of material that you can get for any number of things. I just showed you guys Dick Fight Island. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's a wide range of material here. And I just kind of feel like the way that people keep drilling him about this over and over and over and over again, it feels like harassment. And like, here's the thing. I don't agree with everything he likes. He draws. I don't like everything he draws. Like, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like, that's part of the artistic process. I don't always like everything he draws, and I don't collect everything he draws. So yeah, I just thought that was weird. Like, and I thought the fixing thing was just a very odd thing. And like, I see myself rambling, so I'm just gonna close it out with this, right? I've joked about this before in the show. Back in the early 2000s, when I was in college, right, I was on the Rotten Tomatoes message board way too much, like way, way, way too much. And at one point, I got into this heated back and forth with someone about Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, the other thing that divides geekdom all the time, right? Star Wars. And so I decided that, like, I was going to write a multi-paragraph version of what I thought episode 1 should be. And I dedicated way too much time and way too many words to something I don't own. You understand what I mean? And I look back on that now, and it's kind of like, oh God, that's embarrassing, right? I was like, I was 19 or 20. I felt strongly about everything but what was important. You know what I mean? But like, and I look at that moment, and I look at what this guy did with the J. Scott Campbell thing, and I kind of equate them as the same thing, which is like, the audacity of me, You know what I mean? The audacity of me to think that I could fix something that a professional has made, whether or not I like it or not. You know what I mean? And for me to go in and just kind of be like, well, they should have done this instead. They should have done that instead. And they should have done this. It's foolish. Like, you know, I mean, that's how I view myself then, and that's how I view this now. And I feel that J. Scott Campbell took it in stride. I feel like, you know, ultimately I saw some people saying like, well, he keeps leaning into this and keeps bringing it back up, et cetera, et cetera. But that's because you guys keep bringing it back up. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm trying not to be too salty about this, but this continuously is a thing. And again, I just have to go back to like, there are just so many different types of comics, so much different types of artwork. I have had to say this too many times. Let artists be artists. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to buy it. You don't have to support it. And also, like, you know, in the case of this Mary Jane cover, I'm like, it came out like 20 years ago, dude. Like 20 years ago. Like, let it go. Like, just out there. I'm a drop it. But yeah, I just found that. But yeah, I just found that your opinion. We're entitled to our opinion. You know what I mean? The fans are entitled to their opinion. J. Scott Campbell's entitled to their opinion. But that's the point. Art is subjective. That is the ultimate point here. And, you know, I know Fast and Furious is trash, but I love it anyway.
Right.
You know what I mean? And sometimes you like things that are just junk food. And J. Scott Campbell, sometimes he just makes great junk food. You know, and am I still the 17-year-old who's like, ooh, girls? No, I'm not. You know, so it doesn't work on the same way for me. But at the same time, you know, just let him go. Leave him alone. I know Ash is giving me the squinty eyes, but that's my take. Where are you going to follow up with, Ashton?
I don't. A little tired of this whole like men using women as a tool for their story, and it's easy to say, like, if you don't like it, don't look at it. And that is very true. That is a very valid argument. I'm not going to act like it isn't. But also, it's just when you let these things exist and you don't say anything about them and they continue to be perpetuated and he continues to do it, and regardless of how many times people bring it up, I personally think that's dangerous. And I think it's problematic. Yes, it's his art. Should you be fixing it? Maybe not. I mean, are you within your right, again, to make a point about it? Yes. But I think as a repeat offender in the same fashion, I think that's kind of dangerous. And I think I don't know, like, this is a little off topic, but I think it's kind of confusing that it's like, you know, like Rob Liefeld's Captain America, that is ridiculous. And we're all like, this is ridiculous. Right. Like, why is that ridiculous? And something we can all acknowledge is not like like the way human anatomy works, but this isn't part of that same conversation. I don't understand why is there an anatomy conversation and this isn't part of it?
Well, I mean, there is, like, I mean, you know, I think it's, you know, to your point, the distinction about the concerns about anatomy are coming from different camps based on the topic, right? But I also see some cross-pollination, because I think there are people that will agree. Like, you know, there are people who say that Rob Liefeld Captain America thing is ridiculous, and the J. Scott Campbell thing is ridiculous. I'm on the other side of this. I think it's apples and oranges. Like, I think that I don't know what Rob Liefeld was doing over there, and J. Scott Campbell is, you know, he's you know, like, all his characters kind of follow this body type, you know, and I'm like, okay, I guess, like, I mean, it works for some people, you know, I'm okay with that. I think there's another part of this that I think people do gloss over, which is, you know, we talked about toxic fandom, right? And so, okay, Johnny wants to chime in too, so I'll definitely let Johnny jump in. But like, I feel like this falls in that category of entitled fandom. Like, I feel like we kind of get into these pockets where we think entitled fans and toxic fans only come from one camp, right? But there's another part of this where it's like, it's kind of a widespread issue. And I feel like that widespread issue has various layers to it. And it all comes from different corners. Like, you know, like, I've seen people say that the Steven Universe crew is like toxic. Like, you know what I mean? Of course, I've seen people say the Star Wars fans are toxic. Right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's layers to this. And I just kind of wish, I I know it's overly simplistic and maybe even juvenile, but I'm like, just like what you like, guys. Like, I don't think we need to be had our fingers wagged at us every time something draws something that doesn't agree with you in particular, you know. Johnny, are you going to come on, and is there going to be two guys yelling at the woman on screen?
No,
that'll be a good look.
That would not be a good look.
Yeah. Remember the last episode of Previews World Weekly that time? Yeah, that was a good one. No, I'm inclined to agree with Troy on this. Although I definitely do see Ashton's perspective. But I did want to go over some of the comments that we're getting. But there was this one posting that you sent me, Troy, that I thought was quite entertaining. Yeah. I fixed Sam Keith's terrible art. Has he never seen a person before? Human bodies just don't look like that. So just to see the Max done up as just like a regular guy.
And I think that's another thing too. You have to kind of take it into a context. Like, does J. Scott Campbell do more quote unquote realistic artwork than Sam Keith? Yes. But I mean, it's still all ridiculous. Like, it's all just stylized nonsense. Like, you know, not to call it nonsense, but you know, it's all stylized to a very specific tone or style. So
I mean, and it's like what you were saying earlier. He's gotten in trouble before, but and I flashed this image up earlier. But it was like this portrayal of Tiger Lily from Peter Pan, and Native Americans or just were not happy about that.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone should have been too happy about that. Why is she white?
So,
I mean, is she white? Actually, I didn't think she was white, but okay, interesting.
No, it was just like about the just portrayal of them in captivity or something like that.
Right.
There's a lot of things.
There's a lot.
Going in there.
I mean, he's known for the pinup style. I mean, he did his whole fairy tale fantasies calendar series that was done this. But he's also been known to make fun of his own art, because this was like part of his art from Marvel Comics 1000, and just seeing Mary Jane say, "Hey, you don't actually think I sit that way, do you?"
Right. Oh, you know what? This was in Marvel Comics 1000. I totally forgot about that. I couldn't remember where I actually saw this originally, but yes, that's right. No. It is actually Marvel actually printed this, which I actually kind of good on you, Marvel, for that.
But yeah, I'm agreeing. I feel like Ashton's point to just realistic body portrayal. I mean, like, just from a purely anatomy standpoint, it doesn't seem like there's any real reason for her to be like putting her hands together in like this.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm like, but I do agree that like the art or J. Scott Campbell's fix of the quote unquote fix tends to lean towards a much more natural representation of Mary Jane. What would seems to be like more comfortable, but that is neither here nor there. But I do want to say that we have been getting a lot of comments on this.
All right, let's see it.
Back and forth. So let's see. We're gonna just we are way backed up. Let's see.
Oh boy.
Choose carefully, Johnny.
I'm gonna try here. Michelle Marquez says, "You say ridiculous, but it's art. It's a style, and why should it not be available for those of us who enjoy it?" That's fair.
I don't know if that was for me or her. I don't know who that was.
Probably me.
As far as if people want to consume it, they can. Beauty standards are self-applicable. Art is expression and subjective.
Disagree with the beauty standards part. Big disagree, actually.
Let's see. It's comic books. Actual anatomy has never been involved. Are you serious?
I mean, I wouldn't go that far, but
I know. But,
I see your point.
Lee Johnson. Sorry, it's just the way he drew back then. Why change it to appease?
Oh my God.
I'm not. No. Okay. No.
All right.
No.
Like, if you can't do it,
so many.
Yeah, if you can't do it without name calling, then like
this is why we can't have nice things. So
yeah.
We're upset about unrealistic portrayals of women in comics because the men are all drawn like real men look, or can we just accept that comics are unrealistic in the representation of the human body in general?
I think that's fair, but I don't know. I'm gonna pass on this because I don't know. I don't want to go over the line.
not to answer or not to really answer or disagree with that statement, but I just want to point out that just last week on our show, I think it was just last week, people were flipping out about the anatomy of Mike Mignola's He-Man.
Yeah.
cover that new Masters of the Universe book. And look, I'll just say I'm very consistent. Like I felt the same way about that I feel about this. And He-Man, people love to dredge up the He-Man toys and say, like, is this a realistic body standard? And no, it's not. It's totally ridiculous. But I just wanted to point that out that just last week we did the same thing for He-Man, and this week we're doing it for Mary Jane. So
this one is just, I want to comment on this one. Luis is saying, but in life, women want to be sexy like men. That is not true, sir. I do not want to be sexy. Have you seen me? I look like a lowercase letter B from the side.
Oh, Johnny.
Actually, so this is one thing I thought that was kind of interesting, kind of fascinating. And this was something that I mentioned on in a thread that I was in when people were talking about this. Got Zetascope, Frank Cho, like all the frequent targets of these type of things, J. Scott Campbell, they have a very solid female fan base. You know what I mean? And I think that, and I can't really speak for that, but I can tell you that having dated women who actually immediately saw Frank Cho art and was like, whoa, what is this? I want this. It's fantasy. You know what I mean? Like it's on one side you can say an unrealistic beauty standard, but on the other side, it's like, some women are like, yeah, I dig that. I like that. I'm into it. Maybe they want to be like that. Maybe they already look like that. Maybe, I've heard people go in so many directions with this. So, yeah.
Gabriel says, for every Cho or Campbell, there's a Terry Moore.
This is true.
It seems that it's all the new generation who want to complain about this. I don't know about that. I mean, there's plenty of old people who like to complain about things. I mean, Troy and I are old. We like to shake our fist at clouds. So,
yeah, the old fans complain about stuff too. So whatever.
There's just so many comments in here. They're like, dangerous, get over yourself. They're comics, not real life. Yes, real women don't have big boobs and hourglass shapes, but men aren't all right. Yeah, we've already been over this. We get it. It's just repeating the same stuff over again. Although I do want to touch on one thing. I think I like the fact that J. Scott Campbell is also continuing this in the wake of the public outcry or outrage, or whatever you want to call it, to issue up on his Twitter to draw this in your style. So he's getting people to go out there and create their own art in the wake of this. So recreating his cover to the Amazing Spider-Man number 607. You can just look at his Twitter, Instagram. You can see all the details on that. But they've been getting a lot of interesting submissions to that. I saw one person who pretty much recreated that cover like using like leather working.
Oh, leather working?
Leather working, yes.
Oh,
it's like so. Yeah, something creative came out of this. Not just
I mean, like
tearing down people's work.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I want to give J. Scott Campbell some credit here. Like, this has been a consistent thing, and like he typically handles this with some grace and some class. Like I said, when people gave him crap about the Riri Williams cover, he just redrew it. You know what I mean? Like he was just like, okay, because like at the end of the day, I think I like what I like about it is his attitude is like, look, I'm an artist, I draw, I'll just draw it again. You know what I mean? Like there's something about that I kind of respect. So. All right, guys, keep the comments coming. It's funny. Like, we always joke to it's like, we get into these points where like, we don't want to do the controversial stuff all the time because we don't want a lot of yelling on our feed because we want to make this a fun space for people to enjoy. Right. But then every now and then something rears its head that like, we're kind of like, well, we should probably talk about this because everybody else is talking about it. And it was really funny to see this because Johnny just, the way that this video process works is Johnny just posted the video and scheduled it, and it just happened to have the J. Scott Campbell image as a thumbnail, right? Because that was going to be the topic for this show, and 200 responses. Like there was no show, just 200 responses immediately, like just people just going off just based off of the thumbnail. And so, it's one of those things I heard so many people say, like, look, like, social media interaction doesn't want positive news. They only want negative things, and I find that very unfortunate. And I don't love that, but unfortunately it's true. Like, because one week I could ask you guys, like, tell us about your favorite manga, and 12 people respond. But if I say, tell us something you hate, 300 comments easy.
Right.
So maybe that's something to think about, guys, just in general, as fans in general. And that goes for myself as well. Yeah. Because Ashton will tell you, We've had frequent conversations across the cubicle about things that we've seen in fandom that are just like, why would they do this to us?
Yeah.
But speaking of things we've seen in fandom, and
Before we go, Troy, this is just in. The
Okay.
newest piece of J. Scott Campbell art may kill your baby. Film at 11. Public outrage, outcry. I demand blood.
It just might. I'm just saying, guys. Johnny ruined my segue to the bad bag.
Don't forget that you can catch Previews World Weekly streaming live every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific at Previews World on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.